Hey guys, welcome to the video. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to block primer, or how I block primer. You know, it's one of those deals you ask 10 people, you're probably going to get at least 12 different ways to do it. So I'm going to show you how I do it, and I've had a lot of success with this. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we let this primer dry. And I mean, it's been a week since we applied it. You can go back and check that video out and see what we did, what we used, and how we put it on there. But we've given it plenty of time for solvent to escape. And I don't like to guide coat immediately after I prime, because that solvent seems like it penetrates down a little deeper in your primer, and you could be chasing guide coat that you really didn't have to block out. So we let it dry, we guide coat it once it is dry. And today, just by chance, I have actual guide coat made by Sim. The part number is 38203. You could use just any aerosol paint. A lot of times I just have the cheapest flat aerosol black that I can get. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be black. We just want a good contrasting color so it's easy to see. I've seen guys use markers. Don't like to do that because of the ink and bleeding. They do make this in just a dry powder. That works awesome. This is what I've got today, so that's what I'm going to use. And when we apply the guide coat, I mean, you just spray a really light coat over the surface. So we're talking like, we're running low, guys. So yeah, we'll look at it over here on this quarter panel. All right, check it out on the quarter here. Hit that drip rail, get all along the edge of this roof good. The middle of the roof may be a little tougher to hit. Yep, we're gonna run out of guide coat, guys. And I would definitely, I mean, this stuff's pretty expensive, but it does not clog sandpaper at all. That's the deal. If you use flat black spray paint and let it dry, it won't clog your sandpaper, but it seems like the shiny aerosols, they will clog sandpaper up for quite some time after, and we're doing all this dry, so you don't have that water to wash away any of that stuff. So yeah, flat paint or this or the powdered guide coat, that's what I would choose. All right, now that we've got this whole thing all guide coated up good, let's talk about sanding blocks. So you can see a lot of different styles. I mean, basically, this is a pretty rigid block. It's something that was kind of made for wet sanding. I've got it set up with paper to do body work with, like 40 grit or 36 or something like that. Wooden block, this one's called an AF11, this is AF16. It's an 11-inch block or a 16-inch block, just older technology, I guess. And 3M come out with their blocks, so these are super rigid. They're pretty comfortable. This one, again, set up with some coarse paper because we just finished body work. This one's Velcro. These are called clip-on, so these will use any paper you buy. This one, it's got to be a Velcro type paper. Then we move over here to probably my favorite is the Durablock style blocks. They're PVA foam, and there's your brand and everything. Again, 11-inch block, a 16-inch block, and then look at this hog leg here. This thing, I want to say this is a 30-inch or 32-inch. It's really long. Works good on big panels like that. These are pretty flexible blocks. You know, there's so many different styles of them out there. I probably haven't tried anything after I started buying Durablocks. You can get a bunch of different shapes, you know, small, like that fits perfect in a recess on an OBS Chevy. Little small one here, really flexible. Then a round block. And here we go, my favorite, just a piece of sandpaper wrapped around a wooden stir stick. You can cut them to whatever length, width, shape you need. Make your own sanding blocks. You can do it with plastic spreaders. You could do it with a 1x4 or a 2x4. You know, just about anything could be a sanding block if you wanted it to be bad enough. So this is what I've got. then the next thing we need to talk about is sandpaper grits, what we're going to use to block this thing out. What we've got are a couple different examples of sandpaper. I don't have a ton of stuff here because, well, you just don't need to stock every grit, every size, every combination. Pick something and stick with it, guys. Eliminate a ton of stuff in your cabinet. So everything I have is on a roll, okay? And it's PSA, pressure sensitive adhesive, not Velcro. If I was to start all over and buy my stuff today, I would probably buy Velcro everything just because it's very easy to reuse Velcro sandpaper. This stuff, you got to be really careful because once that glue gets a little dust on it, she don't stick no more, and then it becomes just folded up edge sanding paper. So 80 grit, that may be appropriate in some areas of our roof because it's rough. This is 180. I would like to have some 120, okay, kind of a stair step in between the 80 and the 180. 180 will cut it pretty flat. 120 will just do it a lot faster. And then 320, that'll be my final grit that I use up there. And then we'll make our decision. Do we need to reprime? Which most likely we will. If I see low areas, stuff that I know is not going to block out, we'll just sand it down real good and we'll glaze over it and work it. You know, that's just what you got to do, guys. I have some other paper here that's wet or dry paper. This is 240 grit. Back when I was a boy, this is what we used to do. We wet sanded everything. So basically I had this sandpaper and I cut a piece of aluminum and then just rolled the sandpaper up in it, wet of course, and used water to wash the sludge away. Wet sanding works really well. It's just super messy. And dry sanding is super messy too, but it's not got all that wet slime and sludge running down into every orifice of your car. It's just dust, so you can blow it and wipe it out a little bit easier. So anyway, that's the way I used to do it. Now I dry block at least up until like the final stages. I might wet sand it with 400 last step. We'll see. All right, guys, I chose the coarsest grit, but it's one I finished body filler out with, so it's kind of a little bit less aggressive than a brand new piece of 80 grit. You know, normally I wouldn't block primer with 80, but hey, we want to make sure we're straight. So I'm just going to make big long passes. First off, not pushing down hard, let the sandpaper do the work. That's part of the good thing about using that 80 to start with, is it'll cut without having to mash on it very hard. So you just keep on going. I can already see that it may block, but it may have a big old wavy spot in it too. That's why we guide coat it. Get a section cut off here and we'll evaluate it together. How's that? All right, you see that always back and forth, up and down at an angle. Get that X pattern going so we can get it flat. This is a lot of fun, guys. You ought to come and take a little part in this. We're only about 30 minutes in, so it'll probably take a few hours to get this thing completely done just with one grit. The next thing that I'll do is I'll come back and I will clean it off, and then I'll guide coat it again, and we'll move up in grit size unless we have problems and need to really work it over. Something else I like to do is always wear a dust mask when you're blocking, just so you don't have them gray primer boogers. And get you a little brush like this just from Harbor Freight. I like one with the soft bristles, and you just take that and you can use that dude to sweep it right on off and see what you got. Then you can use a vacuum and vacuum this up so you're not blowing dust everywhere. I'm going to pick you up, elevate you. Yep, you can see where we're at, and you just have to keep going with it. You just maintain that X pattern, get all the course blocking done, guide coat, block to remove scratches from there on out. We'll just do us a section here and see what that really looks like. All right, let's do it. Second round of guide coat. I want to do just this section right here for you guys where it's nice and easy to show you and everybody can see and ask questions, okay? We'll do that. Let that set for just a second. Let me get some 180 on a sanding block. All right, so we got that 180 on there. We're going to do the same kind of thing, only I'm just going to start out in that X kind of shape. A lot of different sanding blocks out there. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys use. Oh, all right. So let me brush that off. So those of you that watch all of the videos on the channel, you know that underneath this light colored primer, there's a darker gray epoxy over the bare metal. That's what this is right here. So I treat that just like seeing metal. We've blocked as far as we can in that area. So we just keep cutting down, and you can see it's coming out pretty decent. I think we might have something if we just spend enough hours blocking her out. Woo, it's gonna be a long evening. Oh yeah, this block here, it covers about half the roof. This is a good one. This is what you need to get, guys. Just kidding. Don't do these jobs. Whatever you do, tell folks that you quit, that you forgot how, that you sold your tools, whatever it takes. Don't do these jobs. Well, we just keep going with it, but this is kind of what we got done before lunch one day. So yeah, it's just it's a lot like work. Doing everything by hand, long blocks, the longer the better, the more yeah, manual labor goes into this stuff. But you can see the back part of it. I don't know if I got tired back here or what, but I didn't sand through nearly as much as I did up in this area where all of our work was. So it's okay to sand through and hit body filler, but if we start seeing metal, we just back off and get away from that spot because we've done all we can do. And that's kind of where we're at out here in the middle. And I've just been trying to kind of plane all this and get it as smooth as possible. It's not really flat because it's all round. I got this front up here. I need to work it over a little bit more, hit all the edges with some fine sandpaper, block the drip rails, and I'm thinking about pulling this piece of tape off and retaping it because that primer builds up so much. We'll have one heck of a bad tape line. So there you go. We're gonna go in and eat. I'm pretty hungry. Been out here since about 7 this morning. I think it's about noon now. So yeah, really good progress. Just wanted to bring you guys in and show you. I have been using 80 grit the whole time that I've been doing this, and we're probably going to have to switch up and hit it with a little bit of 180 just so the primer will not be in them deep scratches from the 80 grit. So anyway, there we go, having fun, and yeah. All right, guys, so we're coming back into the final stretch here before we reprime everything. I have gone around all my edges and I've sanded all the edges with 180, and where we're transitioning from primer into paint, I have sanded those areas with 320. Just like we did before we put the first dab of primer on. I want to make sure that all my scratches are 320 where we're transitioning from a primer edge to a paint edge, just to keep them from showing up later. I did find a few little imperfections, and usually when I'm blocking, if I find something that's not going to block out, a little pinhole or a deep scratch or something like that, I'll just throw a piece of masking tape on it right then, because when you're doing a whole car, it's tough to remember exactly where all them little spots are. So this stuff gets hard like super fast. Breaking an ankle or a knee or a shin. Okay, so I just had about 5 or 6 little pits back here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to hit them with a little glaze just to make sure that they're completely filled up and we don't see them anymore. I think there was one spot on the other side up underneath the drip rail. So we didn't do bad for areas needing more attention. I should have put my headgear on, shouldn't I? I can't just drag the camera over here. But I assure you, little stuff, really, really little stuff. That's all we're dealing with. And it's hot out here, so that glaze is already set up. Perfect. Good thing we didn't have much to do. So I just scrape her all off my board. That stuff's already like turned to cheese on us, fellas. Well guys, all right, we got as far as we could with that 3 coats of primer. Got it all blocked out. It's about 1:30, 2 o'clock. I just saw a spot I got to retape. Got primer in the gun though, we're ready to go. Well, hey guys, there you go. It's a few hours later. Went in, changed clothes, been to vacation Bible school at church and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, there is the hopefully final primer application on the roof of this car. I am going to have to fix those cracks that I showed in the deck lid on it. But while I'm fixing those, this primer could dry. If I was in a collision repair shop, I probably would have done all of my body work first and then put it in the paint shop to do my priming work. But out here in the hog barn, we do stuff a little bit different, disjointed methods. So I hope that you guys got something out of today's video. Remember, when you're spraying primer, primer is just as important as paint. I know so many people say, well, it's just primer. Well, yeah, you are going to have to go back and sand it and everything, but it's not a miracle working piece. It is something that you got to do and do well. It's basically the foundation that you're building that mansion on top of. And we don't want to build it on a swamp. We want to do it on a good surface. That's why I preach using 2K products all the way. It's not that much more expensive in the long run. The 2K primer will do way more than any 1K stuff. The 2K sealer's easier to work with if you have issues or anything. So you want to use those kind of products. I also am a big fan of epoxy over bare metal first. I know a lot of people that use the Feather Fill or the Rust Defender, those kind of primers that take a catalyst that looks like the same catalyst that goes into fiberglass resin. They're great products. If you use them, follow the directions. That's the biggest thing with any of this stuff. Follow the manufacturer's directions. Don't be a benchtop chemist and you'll do well. If you don't know, go to the internet, read a little bit, but read directly from your paint manufacturer's website and it'll help you guys out. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. Remember, give the video a thumbs up if you like what we're doing. Leave me a comment and let me know what you would like to see more of or done differently. I talked about wet sanding. I never showed any kind of wet sanding in this video. I can do that for you and kind of show you my technique to do the same level of blocking as we had to do on this, but using wet sandpaper. So thumbs up, subscribe, leave me a comment, and guys, we'll catch you on the next video.